to get to Masada. Our first half of the day is going to be there, which means the cable car is going to take us to the top of the cliff of Masada, and then we will be talking and walking probably for about an hour and a half or so at the top, right? Top, okay.
Who knows the story of Masada? It's a dramatic story. I've been here, so many times before I'm a tour guide, because this became such an important site in modern Jewish, Israeli ethos of Judaism, new Judaism, and being an Israeli. This place turned to be a very, very important symbol, kind of a non-religious symbol. So it's not temple, it's not, sorry?
Kind of identity.
It's very much into identity, very much into who we are and the way we act. And some of the things that, we are a little bit joking about, okay, you will understand maybe a little better the way we behave, the mentality here, a little bit is based on that. Now, this is just one story of many. So this will, hopefully give you a better understanding of who we are today. And it's not a black and white story as it used to be up until several decades ago. Like when my father grew up, my parents grew up, this was the symbol of Israel, okay? And today there are more question marks and more research and more postmodern history research. Was it really like that? We have different voices. Okay, so it's a little, more complex for a change. Now, I hope I made you curious enough to convince you to walk with me into the sun. Now, if you look down below here, you see there is a ramp. Do you see the ramp kind of coming up towards us, but not as high as we are? Now, do you see a rectangle shape?
Yeah.
Okay, this is commander's base. This is where they would command the buildings of a siege wall all around Masada, 8 Roman camps, and a ramp. And all this ramp will reach up to where we are, so they can knock down this wall and then the second wall, okay? Now, I'm gonna take you to a shady spot to continue the story. Let's back up a little bit. Who is up here at the time?
We are.
Now we are, right? Now we are, okay. The zealots, rebels, and maybe refugees, maybe people that, didn't have anything to do with the war. Zealots or Sikars that left Jerusalem. So there's a big war going on. And there are people that are escaping from the different villages in Galilee, different villages in the Golan, Gamla, for example. Some of them will look for refuge in Jerusalem, okay? And the Romans are proceeding. Now, fighting at the time is seasonal. You don't fight all year long. It's not like 365 days that you fight. 5 or 4? Jewish calendar, Gregorian calendar. Yeah, so you don't fight all year long. You fight on the seasons. You can't fight when it's raining, and you wouldn't fight when it's too hot. Okay, so only when it's convenient. So it will be more spring and more autumn. This is when you fight. And in between, most of the soldiers would do all kind of maintenance jobs and build more things and more roads. And, maybe some of them will even go back to the little piece of land that they received already, and maybe we'll start a little farm and then come back to fight the next season. So when we say 8 years of a war, it's a seasonal one. Nevertheless, it's a long, bitter war. And by the time the Romans are sieging Jerusalem, the Jews are fighting among themselves in such a way between the different groups, okay? And you have especially a group of extremists. These are the zealots or the Sikars, because they have a special dagger and they're named after that dagger, the Sikar dagger. And these are the ones that if you collaborate or you are suspicious of collaborating or even thinking of collaborating with Romans, or maybe just even a little modest, we're gonna stab you to death, okay? So we have this very extreme group that is pulling everyone pretty much to the extremes. What we're saying up until today, we are saying that the temple fell because of brotherhood hatred. That's well known among us. The Romans, okay, they destroyed it physically, but it was because we were fighting one against the other. Okay, so what you get up here at the spring of 74, so you get a mishmash, okay, a mixture of all kind of people. Some of them are the zealots that left Jerusalem, okay, and actually a lot of them did not participate in protecting Jerusalem against the Romans. You get people from the Yachad sect from Qumran that were probably here because Qumran was destroyed at 68 or 69, and this is why they were hiding the scrolls in the jars in the caves, because the Romans were coming. Okay, and then when the Roman came to Qumran, they killed them all, or didn't leave anyone alive there, but didn't look for and didn't care about the scrolls in the caves. Okay, so we have those here as well. We maybe even have some Samaritans here. We have families. We have people that just didn't want, take part in the war. Whatever, whoever knew about this place or wanted to come here. So 960 Jews are here when finally the Romans are making their way. Whoever is up here and they have CNN or whatever thing, they know that everything is destroyed, and they believe in their heart that they are the last Jews. They think that they are the last Jews, that there's nothing left out there. Okay? Jerusalem is destroyed, the temple is destroyed. They see all the slaves telling them the news, everything is destroyed. So they believe and they know that they are the last Jews up here. Now the Romans with their battering ram are getting closer to the wall, which would be exactly like the wall here. We are standing in the space in the wall. And they're hitting the wall and hitting the wall. There's a big battering tower right outside the wall. They're throwing big rolling stones, not Mick Jagger's Rolling Stone. They're throwing rolling stones, they're throwing fire, arrowheads. All these things were found down there. The Romans are throwing fire and arrowheads inside and catapults and everything, and it's bad. And eventually the Romans are breaking this wall. Look how thick this is. This is what, like 3 feet? There's a little bit more, so you can see right there. Okay, 3-4 feet. So they knock this one down, and they discover, to their horror, because they didn't have very good intelligence, that they discover another wall. Okay, and they are getting a little upset with the Jews. So they want to knock this one down. Meanwhile, the Jews inside are getting organized, okay, because they understand this is going to end bad. And they're building another wall on the other side, a wooden wall, a double wooden wall, and they fill it up with whatever rocks and stones they have. So then eventually the Romans are knocking down this one as well, okay? Avanti! But there's another wooden wall. So what do you do with another wooden wall?
Set it on fire.
Fire. You set fire, you burn it. That's right. Now, it takes time for a wall as thick as that to fall, okay? To fall. And this is when we have this time in the script when the drama happens. So what the Romans are doing when they set fire is they leave 2 guards, okay, because they don't want anyone to escape, because tomorrow we're going to have some fun here. And they walk down the ramp back to the camps. They celebrate the night, the last night of this war. Pasta and wine on the house. Now, this is when the drama happens up here. And what happened is that the leader of the Jews up here, Elazar ben Yair, he congregate everybody, probably just the men, okay? And he gives them a speech and he tells them, listen, my fellow Jews, you came from here, from there. You saw some horrors. You know what's going to happen tomorrow morning to your families, to yourself. I am coming here and I want to suggest that we all kill ourselves, one by the other, in a merciful, loving way, so your dear ones are not going to fall in the hands of the Romans tomorrow. What do you say, my fellow Jews? What do you think they said?
I'm up with that.
960. Okay, who would, here's a difficult question. Just let's play the game, okay? Who would say yes? Who would say I'm for it? Okay, I'm not gonna remember that for you. Who's gonna say no? Who's gonna say no? Well, who doesn't know and thank God we're not in this situation? Okay, they said no. You know why? Because people in situations like this, they want to live. They are optimists, especially if they are believers. They say we can be creative. We hold up until now. We'll find a solution. We'll do that. We'll do this. Even if we fall in the hands of the Romans, something will happen. Someone will rescue us. We'll survive. All kind of things that you say in your head because you don't want to die. Okay? Yeah, I said, especially if you're a believer, you say, yeah. God is not going to let this happen, or God will intervene, or this is the plan of God, or whatever. So I said that too. So they said, no, we don't want to do that. So according to Josephus, he came up with a better speech, more dramatic, more descriptions of what really is going to happen to your daughter and to your son and to your wife in front of your eyes, and telling them, reminding them that the price of a Jewish slave at the time in one of the markets here was lower than a sick horse. And he convinced them. And they agreed. And this is what happened here that night. Okay, so families went to their own private quarters, which could have been here in the wall that Herod had built 70-something years before, in the bathhouse that we used for dwelling for people to live. Everywhere they went, family by family. Either the head of the family killed, his wife, children, the elderly people, or maybe he asked someone else to do it. We're not really sure about the exact details, but what we know is that the 10 last men had wrote their names on pottery pieces, and they decided who's going to kill who, and only the last person had committed suicide, because according to the Jewish faith, committing suicide is the worst sin, okay? Way more than killing someone, especially out of mercy. Before they did all that, they burned everything. They killed all the livestock, everything, because they didn't want any loot to be possible, okay, when Romans will come in. And this is what was happening that night. Except 2 women and 3 children that found refuge in a cave and did not participate. How do we know? Because Josephus tells us about it, and he interviewed them when they finally got to Rome, when they were captured here by the Roman soldiers that broke in eventually. So this is one of the ways we know about this. So when the Romans are actually in the morning, okay, rise and shine, and they know that this is the last battle, they're done with this desert, with the Jews, with this revolt. There's going to be a lot of loot, okay, fresh slaves and maybe some goods. And they rush up the ramp and they knock down the ashes of the wooden fence and they gush inside. What they encounter is silent. Silent. Everything is burning down, silent. There's no sound, no voice. And they start looking for the people, and they are discovering the horror of what was happening here. And what they reported, or again, I'm quoting Josephus, okay, what they said, we could not feel the joy of victory, but respect to our enemy. Okay? And that's the story of Masada. Now, what had happened later is that probably they burned most of the bodies, okay, or maybe threw them down, because there were no bodies and skeletons found up here, only few in some caves that were not dated at the time when they were found. They were not dated to be from the rebels. And according to Josephus, because he's so accurate about pretty much everything, okay, we take his account to be accurate about that as well, except those 2 women and 3 children. So Masada was kind of forgotten. There were some monks coming up here during the Byzantine era, 4th, 5th century, didn't survive up here because of water system. Okay, didn't have water. It was too tough even for solitary monks to be here. And after that, this place was deserted and forgotten. So when the first explorers are coming up here, mid-19th century, and they see this, okay, and this, and later on Jewish archaeologists and researchers and historians coming up here, knowing the story, this is when, okay, and the state of Israel is starting to form into a nation. This is before the Declaration of Independence. Masada came to become into this very powerful symbol of what? First of all, I can say on a very emotional way, something like, excuse my language, they are always after us. Okay? Something like that. But we're still here. And we will always be here somehow. The idea, and this became a logo here, a very, very strong slogan and motivation. Masada will not fall again, which means we're taking 5 steps backwards, measurements that we're never going to get back to the situation that we had no choice. So what does that mean? It means that you might be a little aggressor out there, because you don't want to get to the situation where you have a choice either to kill yourself or become slaves. Okay? So Masada will not fall again. That's like a big thing here. Really, really big thing here. And all of us living in Israel, I have to tell you, in a way, we live Masada life. In a way, because we were in the military. We send our children to the military usually. We go hiking in the Golan Heights when, they're shooting rockets that night, or when sirens are on, then you go down shelter and you just continue, okay? So you're not hiding behind walls anymore, and we don't want to do that anymore. For me to lead a tour to Masada every time is most important, and I really appreciate you being here in Israel and supporting us, okay? Because some Israelis in Israel really feel like the entire world is the Roman Empire. I know it's not, of course not, but this is why you coming to visit us here and sending us these, messages is seriously so important to who we are and who you are and who he is. Thank you.